Welcome to How to Retire on Time, a show that answers your questions about all things retirement, including income, taxes, Social Security, healthcare, and more. The show is an extension of the book, How to Retire on Time, which you can grab exclusively on Amazon or by going to www.howtoretireontime.com. My name is Mike Decker. I'm the author of the book, How to Retire on Time, but I'm also a licensed financial advisor, insurance agent, and tax professional, which means when it comes to financial topics, we can pretty much cover it all. Now, that said, please remember this is just a show. Everything you hear should be considered informational, as in not financial advice. If you want personalized financial advice, then request your wealth analysis from my team today by going to www.yourwealthanalysis.com. With me in the studio today is Mr. David Franson. David, thanks for being here.
Yes, hello.
David's going to be reading your questions that you've submitted, and I'm going to do my best to answer them. You can send your questions in anytime this week by texting them to 913-363-1234. Again, that's 913-363-1234. Or you can email them to heymike@howtoretireontime.com. Let's begin.
Hey Mike, I'm 56 and just lost my job. Everything I have saved is in my 401k. I think I have enough to retire, but there's a 10% penalty if I take money out of an IRA. Is there any way around this?
There is. Hopefully your assets are still in the 401k because there's something called the rule of 55. If you lose your job at 55 years old or you retire at 55 or older, you can actually take cash out of your 401k in most situations and not pay that penalty. Now, the rule of 55, and Google it. You can use ChatGPT on this. It's pretty straightforward. But look up the rule of 55 and if that works for you. If that's the case, make sure you keep your money in the 401k or at least a part of it. Because if you roll it over to an IRA, now you're going to have that 10% penalty.
Oh.
And there's an inherent conflict of interest too. Any advisor that you talk to right now is probably going to want a lot of the money to roll over and that they're going to manage it. But if they manage it, then it gets a little tricky. Now, in addition to the rule of 55, you've got a few other ways you could go around it. So you've got something in the IRS tax code called 72T. And based on what they call the riskless rate, so the riskless rate, which is pretty much set by what the Fed's doing, you could take out a portion of the assets under 72T, and you have to structure this for like 10 years of equal payments for a longer term period of time. You might be able to work around that. There's something called a 72Q, where you could put money into an annuity and then annuitize it. So annuitize it, I'm talking specifically about not for lifetime income, but like for a 10-year period of time, you could annuitize it in a way. There's a few things you could work with in that realm. So 72T as in Tom, or 72Q as in quail. And 72Q is more for non-qualified assets in the annuity, but I want to mention it anyway. But there are ways that you could potentially get assets and avoid that 10% penalty. I've known people that were a little bit closer to retirement, and they just took a HELOC out of their house and loan against their own asset, and then plan to pay it off when they turn 59 and a half because they could take it out without the 10% penalty. There's a couple of strategies here that you could use. This is when it really takes some legitimate exploration of what you're comfortable with, what you're willing to work within, and the strategies available to you to make it happen. Really, if you have enough to retire at 56 and you just want to figure it out, then you probably could do it. There are ways around the tax rules to make that happen. It just takes some very strategic and deliberate planning. And you got to be disciplined about it because you may not like that all of your assets are going to probably grow as much as you want, but I'd ask you, is time your most precious asset, or do you want to be the richest person in the graveyard? Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got longevity to deal with. If you retire at 56 years old, chances are you'll live longer than someone, or you'll have a longer retirement than someone that retires at 65 years old, right? There's almost 10 years there of extra retirement. You have to maintain a certain amount of income for a longer period of time. That's longevity risk. You don't need to buy an annuity to solve this. There are other strategies that can be implemented to help you get there. Rule of 55, check that out. 72T, if you have some non-qualified assets, you might look into 72Q as well to kind of create some stability on the income side through annuities if you want that. HELOC, and there's a number of other things that like that, but those are the more common ones I want to mention. Also, be aware of how you're taking income because it's going to affect your Affordable Care Act or Obamacare insurance, which you will need to figure out before you hit Medicare age or age 65. The IRA to Roth conversion strategy, if you have some non-qualified assets, for those, I know this isn't your situation for the person that submitted this question, but if you have some non-qualified assets, then your IRA to Roth conversion strategy is still applicable. You just have to do it a little bit differently. Really, I want to reiterate this again. More time equals more risk. Longevity risk is probably going to be one of your main risks that you've got to tackle, because it's not like the first 5 years of retirement that you can't screw up. It's really the first 10 years that you can't afford, in most situations that I've seen, to take a big market crash hit, accentuate losses, and try to recover, because you may never actually recover. Longevity risk is certainly the part here that needs to be looked at. So if you're listening and this is kind of your situation, you're in this camp, ask yourself, how do you want to spend your time? Will retirement give you more fulfillment, or is getting another job more fulfillment? Because you don't want to retire early and then become depressed. You don't want to retire early and speed up your cognitive and your physical decline. A little stress in life is actually a good thing. A little bit of I need to get up and do something, someone else depends on me, is a good thing for your health. Many people that retire too soon struggle physically, mentally, cognitively, and so on. So, and many of your friends might not be able to retire as well. The social aspect might be difficult. So just a few things to consider there. But yeah, the rule of 55, 72T, HELOCs, and other ways you can borrow against certain assets to generate income, bridge the gap, and then have a second phase for when you hit 60 years old or 59 and a half, and then have that phase from that point till 65. Then from 65, when healthcare starts or Medicare starts, then you got kind of those three different plans within one plan to tackle. That's all the time we've got for the show today. If you enjoyed the show, consider subscribing to it wherever you get your podcast. Just search for How to Retire on Time. Discover if your portfolio is built to weather flat market cycles, or if you're missing tax minimization opportunities that you may not even know exist. Explore strategies that may be able to help you lower your overall risk while potentially increasing your overall growth and lifestyle flexibility. This is not your ordinary financial analysis. Learn more about Your Wealth Analysis and what it could do for you regardless of your age, asset, or target retirement date. Go to www.yourwealthanalysis.com today to learn more and get started.